And looks like we're live. Hello, Kagglers. Welcome to my farewell stream. It's, if you didn't know, I announced on Twitter and I need to post on the forums. I am going to be moving on from Kaggle on the 31st, but that's a holiday, so actually the 30th, which is this Monday. And it's been close to 2.5 years now, because I started summer of 2017. So yeah, 2.5 years. And I've had a really lovely time. It's been great to get to work with you guys and folks in the Kaggle community. It's been I've really enjoyed working with my Kaggle teammates, and I thought it'd be nice to do a little retrospective of the many things that I've done here at Kaggle. And hello to everybody in the chat. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. Vibhav says, why am I leaving? Like I said, I've had a great time at Kaggle, but I got an opportunity to work on some technology that is I'm really excited about. And I'll announce this when I start my new job, so I have a little bit of a break between them. Yeah, I will tell you that I'm going to be dropping things left and right. No, I'm going to be focusing more on NLP and language technology, which is what my degree is in and what I have wanted to focus on for a while. So I'm excited. And I'll still be streaming, just not on the Kaggle channel probably. Hello, welcome everybody. Oh, yeah, sad face, Yer says, so. You're awesome and will be missed, John says. Aw, thank you, John. So let's go through some of the things that I've done well here at Kaggle. So I've just pulled up my my admin profile. And as you can see, I was kind of a busy bee. So when I started at Kaggle, y'all may not know this. I actually started in the on the datasets team, and part of my job was to source and upload interesting datasets in agreement with their licenses, of course. So I've uploaded quite a few datasets to Kaggle, and most of them are, I shouldn't say most of them, many of them are really focusing on sneezing, sorry. Really focusing on non-English data, because one thing I noticed was that we didn't have, 2.5 years ago, a lot of language data that wasn't specifically English. But those aren't necessarily the ones that got the most popular. So some of the most popular data sets I've uploaded is this list of PyPI packages, which I believe is automatically updating unless the update is broken. Let's check that. Yeah, it looks like it could use a little bit of cleaning. Let's check the activity. See what, because I believe that this should be automatically updating from a either from kernel output or from a data set. Yeah, okay, so it looks like it was updating every day-ish, and then something happened in October, so it's not updating every day anymore, but I believe this is one I made for the event, the dashboarding event that I ran a while ago about how to build dashboards and data pipelines. Oh, it might have been the data pipeline event instead. I don't remember which one it was, but this is currently my most popular data set that I have uploaded. Yeah. Just more stuff coming in from the chat. Nice following your passion, Corpus says. Thank you. I'm excited. I'll still be doing live streaming and videos again, just not on Kaggle. Where's my personal YouTube channel? I will post a link somewhere. It needs some work. I got some work to do between the two jobs to get stuff all ready to go. Bubble Ride says datasets master. Yeah. I am not a datasets grandmaster because most of my datasets don't have a lot of votes. I believe Chris, who was also a Kaggle employee and started at the same time I did, is a dataset Scrum Master. So congratulations to Chris if he's watching. And I might go back and rewatch the chat later just so I don't get too distracted. Your sessions are really helpful. Have a great time ahead. Happy holidays. Thank you, Sandip. Good luck, Rachel. You will be missed. Neela Kasham says, Rachel, where are you going? I'll announce that in a little bit. Like I said, I want a little bit of a break between my jobs, but I'll definitely let y'all know. Probably the easiest place would be Twitter. My Twitter is RCTATMAN. So, and actually says, it's awesome for you that you get to work on something that you're passionate about. Yeah, I'm really excited. And also, drippy in the nose. Then this wildfires data is also very popular. Oh, interesting. So this stamp verification data set is, I believe, actually an image data set. It's one of the few image data sets that I have uploaded. And it looks like that image might not be loading correctly. That might be a bug. Yeah, that might be a bug. It's a data set for object detection for stamps on documents that I uploaded a while ago because someone was looking for it, and it was available under a license that allowed for redistribution, and that license was unknown? No, for sure I have the license information somewhere. Okay, yeah, so they asked for citation. So that was a common one. The Common Voice dataset. I think this is the smaller version of the Common Voice dataset, and they have since done a larger one. And so Common Voice, if you're not familiar, is a really large voice corpus that's designed to have, hopefully to have larger sort of social reach than a lot of other voice data sets, which tend to be really focused on upper middle class white people from America, which is a group that doesn't necessarily need quite as much help in terms of voice technology. And the paper for this actually just got announced. It's going to be at LREC, Language Resources ENC. I don't know what those stand for. It's biannual, so every 2 years conference. And that's where the Common Voice paper is going to be. So that's a citation for that going forward if you're interested. Oh yeah, this dialogue corpus. I remember this. So this is a corpus from the Ubuntu forums, or like chat logs of people talking back and forth. So it's mainly like technical conversations and troubleshooting, and it's really useful if you're doing any sort of conversational training, specifically on the particular domain that they are looking at. It is a chunky one. It is pretty big. No description yet, but it's many thousands of conversations. Yeah. So over 930,000 individual dialogues and more than 100 million words is the full data set. And this one is about a quarter of that, I guess. I'm trying to do math really quickly in my head. So this is a really useful one for anyone working in the conversational space. Let's see. Oh, the speech accent archive. Yeah, this one was, you'll notice a lot of these are sort of in the language field. Again, that's where my specialty is. I don't remember who collected this one. Let's check it out. I tried to write pretty good little captions here. Oh, that's right. It's the GMU, George Mason University, which is in Washington, D.C., here in the U.S. And it is under CC BY and CSA. So Creative Commons, if you use it, you need to provide proper attribution. Whatever you create also needs to be available under the same license. And also it cannot be used for commercial use, so you couldn't like build a product using this data set. But especially if you're interested in speech and accents and dialogues, which I am, this is a good data set. Yeah. Oh man, I remember uploading all these. Oh, this is one of my very first audio data sets I uploaded. And if I remember, I did this little starter kernel on how to create spectrograms in Python. So spectrograms are a time frequency visualization of noise where the intensity of the image is based on the intensity of the sound. So basically it's volume. And so you can see the sort of defaults aren't very good, but when you tweak them a little bit, you can see the bird song. So each of these is like a little pee-pee sound, and you can see they're more or less evenly spaced. And there's a little extra fuzz here that probably sounds like a little sort of warbly sound. And it's over like a minute and a half. So these are pretty widely spaced, minute and a half, like a minute and 10 seconds. Usually for speech, you'd look at things more like in the millisecond domain. Yeah, I remember that. That was a while ago. Let's see. 2 years ago is when this notebook was written. But I still refer to this when I need to do spectrograms in Python because it's not my preferred way to do spectrograms. Russian corpus. We didn't have a lot of Russian language data, again, 2 years ago. A Dutch newspaper archive. This one is particularly interesting because it is newspapers right around the tulip bubble, if you're familiar with that particular historical economic thing. So there's basically everyone in the Netherlands really wanted to buy tulips, and there was this big speculation bubble because they were brand new to the area. I believe they're from China, the Himalayas, Tibet. They're not native to Europe. So people brought them over, and there was this, enormous speculation bubble, and the prices became really inflated. And I believe at the height of the bubble, you could buy like a townhouse in Amsterdam using one tulip bulb. And then there was an enormous crash. People's fortunes like disappeared overnight. So it's a really sort of well-known example of a bubble. And here are newspapers in Dutch from that time period. Another image data set. So this is mathematical expressions like written on a board or something. And then I believe they also have parsed examples as well. Yeah, so they have the segmentation and label information for each symbol in the expression. And then the math ML, which I believe is like an XML sort of thing specifically for math expressions. So you can, the point of this is it's from an academic shared task is to like basically take a picture of a mathematical expression and then turn it into LaTeX or something that's more machine readable. So that was a fun one. I've never actually played with the data set. I just got it fixed up and uploaded. A lot of these were also uploaded before we raised the limit for the size of data sets, so it was a lot of finagling. Yeah, Spanish word vectors. This is a very famous corpus that has a bunch of different blog posts, and you try to figure out who wrote each blog post, so sort of authorship identification. Glove, of course. I believe many people have uploaded Glove word vectors, but this one is just... I think this might have been the first time somebody uploaded Glove to Kaggle. So another corpus, this time of speech in Dutch again. So we have a little bit of Dutch data. Spanish corpus. This is a map of human languages from across the world and their relationships to each other. Brazilian Portuguese literature corpus. This is more classical, so I want to say it's like the 1700s. It's pretty old, the data. Let's see, between 1840 and 1908. So actually much less old than I thought it was off the top of my head. But there's a bunch of different distinct works, and it's mostly literature. But if you're working on sort of old-timey Brazilian Portuguese literature, this might be the perfect corpus for you, or Brazilian in general, Brazilian Portuguese in general. And then we have this corpus of historical Portuguese. And again, you'll notice there's a lot of language data. I tried to get data for, various languages that didn't have quite as good coverage on Kaggle. And hopefully I did a pretty good job there. The Aristo corpus. Yeah. This is from the Allen Institute for Artificial Intelligence, or AI2, which is actually in Seattle. It's like, I don't know, like a mile from the office where I work. So pretty nearby. And it is science relevant sentences drawn from public data. So it's little snippets of text that are about science that you could use for a variety of tasks. And some of the things that I sort of suggested you might use them for are domain specific word embeddings. I think it's more like a sort of middle school public science, high school sort of thing, not like necessarily at the level of, you know, researchers in a particular field, but might still be useful. Doing parsing and testing them on the sentence level, although you can see some of these sentences are definitely a little bit more fragmentary than others. So you might want to do a tiny bit of data cleaning to remove things like a plant. Or trying to do entity recognition and identifying the same entity across different things. So interesting little corpus. Some literature from the South, and so a lot of these are from documenting the American South. I believe there was one further up here as well. First-person narratives of the American South. So these are, many of them are from the Civil War and Reconstruction era, which was not light reading, I would say, but important historical resources to have, and might, again, be very helpful for those of you working in the digital humanities or digital histories. The iris data set is a JSON, just so I could show people how to read in JSONs. I think this might have been for the first data cleaning challenge that I uploaded this. Nope. I never used this except for this particular one kernel on the difference between JSON files and CSV files. And I have little examples of each and sort of a little visualization. And this particular visualization is by Epoch Fail CC by SA 4.0 from Wikimedia Commons. And then I show you how to read a JSON file into R using... from JSONLite? Yeah, JSONLite, which is still the library I would recommend for that. More documenting the South, State of the Union, historical corpus. This one is really interesting. So for this one, I actually worked with researchers to get this data. I was at ACL in Vancouver in 2018 maybe, 2017 maybe, and I got to meet with Min Yen, who is amazing. I think he recently got the ACL Lifetime Achievement Award, or like a very large award. Has done a lot of really, really excellent things for the community, and we have here a data set of texts going back and forth, and they are sort of a mix of Singapore English and Mandarin Chinese. So really interesting, rich data set, particularly if you're looking at any sort of code switching, any sort of multilingual data. And one of the few big Chinese corpora that we had at the time I uploaded it, which was, again, 2 years ago. So yeah, that would have been the 2017 ACL. But yeah, this was a fun one. Really, really good data set to work with. Excuse me. Also one of the few actual text corpora that we have, text back and forth on phones. So, Bubble Rai said, I studied at NUS. Oh, cool. Did you get to work with him? Because he's really cool. Singlish, yeah, for Singapore English. Many people raised in Singapore are native speakers of English, but it's a dialect that many English speakers aren't super familiar with, so yeah. Bubble Ride says, how does your opinion on R versus Python change during your time at Kaggle? I still like them both. I use them for different things. I think the biggest thing that has changed in my time at Kaggle is that I've gotten a better understanding of pandas. So for those of you who don't know, pandas, the library to interact with tabular data in Python, is basically a re-implementation of base R in the Python language that was done by Wes McKinney and other contributors. And I've definitely gotten more comfortable with pandas, but I still strongly prefer for tabular data manipulation R, specifically the tidyverse. There's just so much more tooling around it that makes it a joy to work with. Yeah, so that's my stance on it. All right. Antonio says, I'm Brazilian. I didn't know you had uploaded so many stuff in Brazilian Portuguese. Cool. Yeah. It's hopefully helpful to folks. Owen says, who will take over for you? Unknown at the moment. Things are in transition, but Kaggle will definitely announce if and when someone starts to take over some of the things that I do. So. Owen says, will all this content stay up here on YouTube? Yep, absolutely. So for those of you who aren't familiar, the Kaggle YouTube channel should have all of the stuff that I've done in here. So under, oh look, we're live now. Under playlists, this should be all my live coding. This should be all the reading groups that we've done in order. This is and then each of the events that I've done should have their own playlist of live streams. So for practical model evaluation, that was like 3 weeks ago. And then the coffee chats, which I haven't been doing as many of because I've just been very busy, which are little informal interviews with different people in the machine learning space. SQL Summer Camp, so a lot of streams we did for that. The APIs from Kaggle CareerCon, so these videos didn't come out for quite a while. Those are available here. And then also the full CareerCon videos. Although I don't think you can find the video that I did during CareerCon because it was for reasons. And then the full live streams, and then the 2018 CareerCon. So Walter, who some of you may know is in Version on the forums, and I did a little mock data science interview, so that's in there. Yeah, so this is probably the best place to find specific videos on the Kaggle YouTube channel. All right, so a lot more. Oh, the Lego data set. I forgot about that. Oh, somebody actually wrote one of my all-time, let me find it again, all-time favorite kernels that I've seen by a user on this data set. So this is from Wikipedia, maybe? Rebrickable. So this is from Rebrickable, which is a fan-run site that just collects information on all of the data sets, all of the Lego sets, they're not data sets, that Kaggle has, and it's a relational database. So here is the schema for the database. If you're working with it, each of these tables has relationships to each other, and I haven't updated it in a while, so it's probably a little bit out of date. But the kernel that I really, really loved was this one, and it was by, no, this isn't the one I was thinking of. It's that data set, but I think that one is a fork, and I'm looking for the original one. Oh. Is this the original one? 2 years ago? Maybe it is. Yeah, no, I think it is. I think this is the original one. Okay, I don't know why I thought it was a fork. I guess because Nathaniel is just a contributor, and again, this is a really fantastic really fantastic analysis. So basically, each of the Lego sets belong to a specific theme or line. So there's like Ninjago and Hidden Side that just launched, and Harry Potter and Star Wars and City, and anyway, there's a bunch of different lines and themes. And what this, also I haven't upvoted it. Oh. With this particular script does is that it uses the colors of the pieces in each of those themes, as well as topic modeling. So it treats the colors in the themes as words in a text, and uses that to, you know, show information about the different Lego pieces. So you can see that there was a spike in like the early 2000s where there were a lot more individual colors printed by Lego, and then it sort of went down a little bit, and it's been overall increasing over time. And you can see the relative color frequency. So the original 4 colors have sort of been less and less popular proportionally over time as more and more colors have been introduced, which I think is normal. I'd be guessing the Star Wars one started right in here where we get a lot of grays. And then, I believe there's a, yeah, so this is the colors that are most distinguishing for different Lego sets. So the Clayface Splat Ada is particularly distinguishable for this particular set. The Mini VW Beetle set, is particularly associated with this color. This set is particularly associated with this color. This wall element is particularly associated with this color, and so on and so forth. And there's this really cool visualization. Let me open this in a new tab so it's a little bit easier to see, where these are the most distinguishing colors and the set that they're related to. So the Statue of Liberty set is particularly distinguished by this sort of coppery oxidized color, which is the color of the Statue of Liberty. This Maersk Line container, which is like a shipping company, is most distinguished by this particular blue color. These brown bricks are particularly distinguished by this brown color. The Mini VW Beetle has this like specific blue. And I think that's just a really cool way to approach data analysis, and just a really interesting project. And again, one of my favorite kernels that someone's done here at Kaggle. So that was an aside. I got distracted. But yeah, this is a really fun data set, especially if you are a I was going to say AFL, but also if you're a regular non-adult, I guess you have to be, 16 to use the site? 16 or over Lego person. I think it's over 16 to enter competitions. I think you can use the site and be younger. But anyway, cool data set. Had a lot of fun downloading and cleaning that one and getting that one good to go. Yeah, so again, I had a lot of different data sets that I've uploaded, but I've also written quite a few kernels. So some of the popular ones, the data cleaning challenge. So in 2017, I think was the first one. I think late 2017 was the first synchronous educational event that we did. Let me see. And I actually have a list of all of them in my on my personal website, so I'm just going to get the link to that real quick. Anyway, so I had this idea for a so it's rctapman.com/teaching/Kaggle_workshops. Here's all the different workshops and events that I've done while I was at Kaggle. And I had this idea, again, I think in late 2017, to do an event where there'd be like one small thing to do every day, and people would sign up and they'd get an email and they'd all do it at the same time. And I think some of you might have participated in these various events. So the very first event was very, very simple. Like your first task was to read in some JSON text and XLSX files into your kernel. And day 2 was filling in missing values. No, I think this one was after. This was the first one was this one, yeah. So this was the very first event that I ran on Kaggle, and the very first one was just reading data into a kernel and then plotting a histogram and then doing a t-test and then like first week of Stats 101 sort of things. And we announced it and people signed up and got the emails, and it was really successful. I was delighted by how useful people seemed to find it, and then we continued doing that. So The 5-day challenges was the format I was using for a little bit, so it was over 5 days, so a work week. So the first one was this challenge, and then we did the regression challenge, which I still think is a fantastic resource if you are looking to learn more about regression. So it just walks you through the whole thing of regression. It's 5 days. You can do it all in one day if you wanted, or over more than 5 days. So we talk about Poisson, linear, and logistic regression, some diagnostic plots, reading and understanding models, so the output that you get from the statistical programming software. So again, we're using R because regression in Python is less good, I would say. And then we did multiple regression, and finally using ElasticNet to select input variables and do a little bit of feature selection. So that was the second one that we did, and that was, again, 2 years ago. Yeah, it looks like I can't get the more accurate date for that. But I think that was in 2017. And then we did so this one was in both Python and R. This one was just in R. We did the SQL scavenger hunt. So right after we launched the BigQuery integration to help people, the public one, to help people use BigQuery and use SQL. And it's also just a very important skill if you are working professionally as a data scientist. I don't think I'm giving away any trade secrets when I say that I need to use SQL to interact with the Kaggle database and run analytics and stuff like that. And then we did 2 5-day data challenges on data cleaning. So we did one on Python and then one in R, and they handle different things. So the Python one talks about missing values and imputation, scaling and normalization, which are not the same thing, parsing dates, character encodings, and inconsistent data entry. And this we actually looked at last week in the live coding. So this talks about fuzzy wuzzy and fuzzy matching and sort of identifying spelling errors. And then the R one talked about different data formats, so tabular data and and flat text data, and then JSON and sort of more hierarchical data, and then missing values, imputation, and I believe we use mice here, and we didn't talk about mice in the Python one, so they cover different things. Mice is multiple imputation with changed equations, if you're unfamiliar. And then outliers and deduplication and handling numbers and doing numeric specific operations. And after that, I was still really enjoying them, but the 5-day format was too much. I think I still did a couple more 5 days, but the one thing that is hard is that we tried to send them out so that people got them on Monday regardless of where they were. And because a lot of people are in, say, India or Japan, I needed to send it out sort of on Sunday, my time. And that meant that I didn't get much of a weekend, and it was really hectic and stressful. So I bumped it down to 3 days so that they were all going out and finishing up during my work week. And that made it a lot more sustainable for me. Even though I liked having 2 more days worth of content. And then, so those ones down here are all in reverse chronological order, and these are in actual chronological order. So I went to JupyterCon in 2018, which was actually the last JupyterCon. I think there was some, if you aren't familiar, Jupyter is the notebook that we use on Kaggle, so that's the format, and then the Kaggle interface is a front end on top of that. Same thing with Colab, and I think a lot of the hosted notebook services, they all run on Jupyter, which is an open source project run by NumFocus. Actually, if you're looking for some organization to do a little bit of end-of-year donation for, NumFocus accepts donations, and it's very helpful to them in their work. And they, with O'Reilly, which is a publisher, a technical publisher, ran JupyterCon in New York in 2018. I think that was the last one. And there's some talk about maybe doing like smaller regional ones that I haven't heard about yet. But that might come to pass. And the workshops I did there, I did one on reproducible research best practices, and then one on teaching with notebooks, so using notebooks in the classroom and how do I set up exercises to work when people are working face-to-face, and how do you handle group work and things like that. So notebooks for those are there. And then we did the dashboarding workshop, which was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed seeing everybody's dashboards when they were doing that. And this one was also on 5 days, yeah. And this one I also did in both Python and R. So we used, I believe, Plotly for both of them. Let me see. Let me see my imports. Yeah, so we use Plotly for both Python and R because Plotly is an API to a different service, so the Python and R syntax is very similar. And you can see this is interactive. Oh, it's fun. Also, if you are ever working on something interactive and it's not working for you in Kaggle kernels, it should work. Let me zoom in a little bit so you guys can see a little bit better. It should work as long as it doesn't require running Python or R code. So if it's all JavaScript, you should be fine. If it has any sort of calls to the Python or R API, I guess. If you're trying to run Python or R, it's not going to work because it's static HTML. Only JavaScript is going to work. So if you've ever had like weird problems, that's what's underlying it. Wish I'd known that several years ago. So that was fun. And we talked about automatically updating things, and we used Python Anywhere and App Engine to do the automatic updates, which is why if you look at my what is this? My activity meter. This is when we did the automatic updating version. And so you can see it was automatically updating every day. So a little bit of activity every day, including on weekends, which I don't usually work weekends. And you can see I've done a pretty good job of that. And then here's where it broke and I didn't bother fixing it. So all of this activity, much of it is from the notebook dashboarding workshop is what I was looking for. And then we did the automated data pipelines. So again, things that are just sort of automated, like the PyPI. I'm pretty sure the PyPI data set that we were talking about earlier was one that I set up for this workshop. And we talked about, and this is the first workshop that I did with the 3-day format, which I think was much better for me. We talked about versioning and creating data sets from GitHub repos, URLs, and this will only work for a URL that points directly to a data set, so it has to be something that Kaggle can parse, like a JSON file or a CSV, or kernel outputs, which are, again, all ways that you can make data sets on Kaggle. And this was right after we launched those features, so it sort of helped people understand how to use them, and also think about data pipelines and data validation and automating that as much as possible. And then we did the intro to API. So now we're into this year. I think this one was maybe the last one in 2018, and this one was in March, maybe? I think this one was in March. That was a busy quarter for me. I traveled a lot. And we talked about APIs, or application programmatic interfaces. And if you've probably used an API, but if you've never learned about APIs before, or you're not familiar with what they are, this is a great place to start. I start by just talking about like what they are and how to use them, and then by the last day you will have deployed an API, and you can do that on Heroku or Google Cloud, where your options for that I walked you through. I mean, you can deploy an API anywhere you want. I just didn't make content for it. And then the SQL Summer Camp, which was all this summer, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, I think, separate events that we did. Did I? Okay, so this is just the BigQuery machine learning workshop. The other content that we did was on the Learn courses. So we actually went through and did the courses together. So the Intro to SQL course. And if you remember the SQL Summer Camp that I talked about that we'd done like 2 years ago, this is an update to that. So Alexis Cook, who is running the Learn team right now, went through and updated my notebooks that I'd done for the summer camp and added all of the exercises and the grading and all of the automated stuff. So props to Alexis. So we did the first 3 lessons for the first week, the second 3 lessons for the second week, and then we did the BigQuery machine learning workshop, and then we finished up with the advanced SQL lessons. So these ones, which Alexis wrote and are really good. She does fantastic work. She used to be at Udacity, I think. So if you've taken Udacity courses, you might have run into her work before as well. Yeah, so that was the SQL summer camp. And then we did the utility script competition, which, if you didn't see the winners were announced. So here are some of the ones. This notebook, so these are all scripts, so just like flat Python or R files that you can import into a notebook and use. And this one, for example, will let you modify the output of your code cells. So usually your code cell output is just sort of whatever the default Jupyter Kaggle front end is, but here you can specify what you want it to look like. So you can make it blue, you can make it different fonts, you can make it different colors, you can make it different sizes, you can underline it, you can have drop shadows. Don't put drop shadows on it, but you could if you wanted to. This one has text where it changes depending on the content of the text and different things. Or actually, this one is dependent on a random variable. So lots of cool uses there. This column statistics is sort of similar to the R summary function. It just gets you the statistics of all the columns, real quick and easy. Big fan, very useful. And to use these, you would add I'll start one, and then we can come back to it. Yeah. Go ahead. So to use one of these, you would go to your kernel and then add utility script here under file, and then search for the utility script that you want and then add it. And then, so let's add this column underscore statistics one. Column underscore statistics. And right now it's just looking for my work, so let's get rid of that. So we can add this to our notebook, and then we can import it using import column underscore statistics. And from there, we can use any of the functions in it, like this stats function, or this of type dates function, or this is numeric column function. So nice, useful little script. This one is a bit of a joke. So I believe Google patented Dropout. So this is drop in, which is not patented by this particular person. So, and the reason that we picked this one as a winner is that it shows you how to write your own TensorFlow method, basically. So it's a really nice minimal example of changing one thing. This is super, super helpful if you've ever run into memory limitations with pandas data frames. It just makes them more memory efficient. You can use it with any pandas data frame. Really, really helpful. And will save you a lot of memory, especially if you're working with big data frames. So here, this data frame here, which is international football results, was reduced to 2.5 megabytes, bits, bytes. No, bytes. Yeah, no, bits. A byte is 8 bits. Bytes, megabytes, to about, was that about a fifth of that ish in there, in under 2 seconds. So really, really big space saver. Very helpful. This one that sort of automates trying out a bunch of different regression models. I guess you could almost call it AutoML, except it doesn't do model selection. It just tries it and tells you about it. And there's also a regression version. So this was the regression version. There's also a classification version with some tutorials. And then we have this TF-IDF summarizer class that's part of the Better NLP library by Neomatrix 369. So you can learn more about that here. Anyway, so as part of that event where people wrote utility scripts, and we picked some of our favorites, and they got some cool swag, I also wrote a notebook with guidelines for writing code in a professional way. Because especially if you're coming from academia or you're self-taught, there's a lot of things that you may not have heard about, and you might have some sort of like weird code smell is one of the things that people talk about. There's like, oh, this doesn't quite seem like the way that I expect it to be. So I talk about the different things that I would recommend that your code follow, and these are also the things that we use to judge the scripts to pick the ones that we like the most. So hopefully helpful for folks. And then the last event I did on Kaggle was the first week of December. So I think it was the 3rd through 5th, and it was practical model evaluation. So figuring out how to pick a model. And I think I think most people are on Kaggle are probably familiar with optimization functions and picking things based on an optimization function that works for your particular problem. But there are other things you might want to consider as well. Time, money, cost, storage, evaluation speed, like lots of factors that go into picking a model, particularly in a professional setting, because you have to convince other people that it's good. You can't just convince yourself that it's the best model. And we talked about different ways to evaluate models, and then we trained some models using automated machine learning and a number of different frameworks, and then we evaluated models. Yeah, and that was going to be my last Kaggle event. So those are the workshops that I did while I was here at Kaggle. And it was, let's see, 1, 2, 3. This one's actually 4. I should have counted them earlier. Anyway, there's a lot. It's a lot of notebooks. It was a lot of work, and I really enjoyed it. Biwiski says, "I will miss you, Rachel." I mean, I'm still gonna be on Twitch. That was on Twitch. Yeah. Carlos says, "Am I stopping YouTube streams, or is it farewell for last stream of the year?" No, unfortunately, I'm gonna be. I'll probably still continue to stream. It just won't be on this channel, and I'll announce those on my Twitter, which is probably the best way to follow me and find out information. I know I have notifications, but I am RCTATMAN on Twitter. So if you are interested in following me in particular, that's probably the best place to do it. Bubble Ride says Dropout is trademark. I believe it's patented. I don't know that the patent application actually went through. I don't know. There's this big kerfuffle about Google trying to patent Dropout. It went active in June, maybe? One sec, I just Googled the Doop. Oh my god, this website is awful. Sorry. Let me get rid of all of these things. Nope. Well, okay. You can Google it and also click on that awful website, and maybe you can learn more about it than I just did. So, Corpus is bytes. Thank you. Yeah. Surat says, "How is working with Goldblum?" I'm assuming you mean Anthony Goldblum, the Kaggle CEO. Oh, great. No, he's really good to work with. Actually, all the Kaggle team was really fantastic, and I'll definitely miss them. But yeah. All right. Robbie says, "I like statistics. I'm currently using the tidyverse." Yeah, the tidyverse is great. And that's probably the best resource for the tidyverse if you are interested is tidyverse.org. And it's just a collection of data science packages that are built around a specific framework. And there's like various ideals that underlie it. Like one example is that the tidyverse will not modify data in place. It'll copy it instead. So that can potentially introduce memory limitations. So if you're really working with very large data and have memory restrictions, maybe not going to be the best choice for you. But in general, I find the tools really, really helpful, especially for day-to-day data munging. They're designed by people who have that as their day-to-day job. So it does feel very, very user-focused. Yeah. Bubble Riot says, "What was the most important thing while working at Kaggle?" Oh, that's a good question. Yeah. I think probably making sure that I had a good understanding of the community needs, and where people were. So, I mean, a big part of my job was working with you guys and producing content, and I I needed to make sure that it was going to be something that was genuinely useful for people. And also that wasn't sort of done to death. Like I could have done for the last thing for the last event, instead of talking about sort of like other things you might want to consider, I could have just focused on optimization functions, but there's so many optimization function tutorials out there, many of which are better than I could ever make. So trying to figure out things that would be valuable and useful, I really tried to respect everybody's time, and if I was going to do something, make it helpful as possible or worthwhile. So, yeah. Yeah. Good question. Adita says, I just joined. Goodbye stream. We're going to miss you. It was really awesome to code alongside. Oh, thank you. It was really nice to code with y'all as well. The Answer Life says, well, now we know it's not a NoSQL database. Well, you know that not all of it is a NoSQL database. Yeah. Corpus says, I'll get to these tutorials when I finish my current MOOC. They are very hands-on. Thanks. You're welcome. My pleasure. Joshua says, I've just graduated, applied statistics major. Kindly advise the best practices to take on my journey to data science. That's a good question. And very broad. I think my number one piece of advice for people who have just graduated and are looking to get into data science is, don't be discouraged. Take care of yourself. It's a very fast-growing field. There's a lot more junior people entering the field than there are jobs for junior people. So expect a lot of rejection, and just be really nice to yourself. Don't stew. Have something to work on that you're excited about that'll help you feel productive and like you're doing a good job. Yeah, job searching is rough. Job searching is really rough. Yeah. All right, looking at these other questions. Neela Kasham says, Rachel, you're on LinkedIn, right? Can you add me there? I've sent a request a while ago. Well, I will say I have a LinkedIn account. I ignore it. So if you've sent me a request and I haven't accepted it, it's just like I just never go on there. Mainly because their mobile experience is awful. It's awful. I want to just look at the website on my phone. That's all I want. I want to log in and look at the website, but no, I can't do that because I need the app. I don't want the app. Anyway, so I don't really use LinkedIn that much. Rohit says, what's your opinion on the application called Kite, which helps in autofill command/libraries? Oh, I really like Kite. Yeah, no, I'm a big fan. So Kite, if you're not familiar, does auto completion, and it's been trained basically on all of GitHub. So you, instead of just like autocomplete telling you about the files that you have, or yeah, I guess the files you have locally or things you've already got installed, it's like, hey, this is probably what you mean to do. So especially for imports, if you like import P, it's like pandas is PD. Yeah, that's what you wanted. So yeah, really nice time saver. I quite like Kite. Hung says, what's better for data science analysis, R or Python? For analysis, where you have statistical analysis and visualization, I would definitely say R. For me, I mean, so the thing for me is, because I have a little bit of familiarity with R, it is much faster for me, particularly to do visualizations in R using something like ggplot2 than it is in Python using something like matplotlib. Like, I understand that people have worked very hard on matplotlib. It is enabled a lot for a lot of people. I'm, big thumbs up to the open source developers who work on it. I personally find it fairly frustrating to use. And that's sort of my stance on it. So, yeah. Awful mobile experience of LinkedIn. Maybe one day it'll get better. Robbie says, gives me Gustav's number. I think it's probably like 1, 2, 3, he doesn't have a phone. Yeah. The gamer says, I've been learning data science for over a year now. I'm currently in a rut trying to learn and not able to get better at competitions. What are your suggestions? So if you've been doing it for a year, you've probably covered a lot of the sort of introductory stuff. My recommendation for once you sort of have a good understanding of, you know, like distributions and like basic machine learning would be to, you may be surprised to know, I'm not really big into competitions. I actually have entered the getting started competitions, but those get erased every 3 months, so they're not in my profile. My recommendation is to find a problem that you're genuinely interested in and want to solve. Maybe you want to do optimization to find the best Pokemon team for the new Pokemon game, right? Maybe that's something that's very appealing to you and you really want to solve. And then focus on the problem and research what other people have done for similar problems and use that to sort of guide your exploration to find new techniques, new to you techniques. So in graduate school, I worked on a lot of papers and I did not do my statistical analysis planning before my data collection. I got better at that over time. And at the end, I'd have data. I'm like, okay, I know what I want to find out for this data. What statistical techniques will let me do that? And that was really motivating for me to go into the statistics literature and do more reading and learn more and become a better statistician and data scientist. So that's my recommendation, is to find a project where the project itself is motivating. It may not work for everybody, but that's worked for me. Yeah. Let's see. Layla says, Rachel, what was the best and worst thing in your journey? In Kaggle. The best thing is probably, and this is going to sound sappy, but the community. Kagglers are extremely passionate, very hardworking, very smart. I'll preface this with saying I really like ferrets. I think they're very cute. I like to play with them. They're lovely animals. I'm a big fan. Sometimes I will refer to Kagglers as ferrets because they're just so inquisitive and motivated and smart and really good at like figuring things out and solving puzzles, much like ferrets, which again, I'm a big fan of. This is not, I'm not trying to this isn't an insult. I really like ferrets. For example, I would not say that Kagglers are hedgehogs because Gus, even though I love him, is extremely dumb. He walks off of things a lot. He doesn't like the sound that his food makes when he eats it, and I don't think he's figured out that sound is coming from him eating his food. So, yeah. So the community has been great. Things that I haven't liked. I did a lot of travel and it got old real quick. So I went to a lot of conferences and gave different talks, and I found that it was just very exhausting for me. I didn't really like being away from home and my family and my hedgehog, and it was much better for me once I started focusing more on YouTube and live streams where I don't have to go to, other places and get on a plane and be on a plane. So that I really didn't enjoy. And I know some people love traveling. It's not for me. Rohit says, suggest suitable resource or GitHub for stock prediction. I'm extremely interested in that field. Oh, I don't know that we have a good enough understanding of economics in general in order to make that a viable problem. I get why people want to do stock prediction. I just don't think it's tractable. It's just my personal opinion. And maybe it is, and I just don't know enough. But sort of the most familiar, let's see. Oh, there's actually, so one of the things I did, was I looked for, Yeah. So I did this research reproducibility. Did I never make this public? Is this private? This would explain why no one's ever mentioned anything about this. Let me make this public real quick. So I did this replication of a study, which was also a replication of another study. Zoom out a little bit. Oh, is this, Is this public? One sec, let me just open this in a new incognito tab. No, it's definitely private. Anyway, I will figure out how to make this public in a bit. Oh, it's because my admin account owns it. Okay, I know I can't make this public. So this paper looked at another paper that claimed to be able to predict the stock market based on the sentiment of tweets, basically. And these people founded a big startup. They got a bunch of funding, and basically they could not do what they said that they did. They said they were able to do. And this paper that I was reproducing tried to reproduce a lot of their analysis from the original paper and found that they couldn't, and that there were problems with the analysis. So I reproduced their work, focusing on computational reproducibility. And I did get it to work, so I was able to reproduce all their figures. So you can see actually here, I think this is a single image. So here is their original figure, and here is my reproduction of that figure. And you can see I was able to reproduce the same figure. The axes were slightly different. So that was the only difference. But I don't know that there's good evidence that stock market prediction is a tractable machine learning problem. Again, if other people have resources, please feel free to share them. But yeah. All right. Other questions? Goodbye, ma'am. Thank you for such interesting lessons. Thank you, Ambrish. David says, all the best, Rachel, and thank you. Oh, thank you. Bubble Ride has some suggestions for approaches to stock suggestion as a problem. Bubble Ride says, Gustavo posts his gifts via his social media manager. Yeah, me. I can't. I've tried managing multiple Twitter accounts in the past and it just does not work for me. So it'll just be on my account. Avishek says, in the Kaggle journey, who is your favorite Kaggler? Oh, that's a loaded question. I don't know that I can pick one person. There've been a lot of great people I've interacted with. Avishek's great. Avishek is first triple grandmaster, I think. Although now we've added a fourth category, so gotta start working on that one. Yeah, I'm just getting like a montage of all the people I've interacted with. Yeah. So many cool people. Mongo's great. Ryan Chesler's great. SRK's great. Actually, somebody I haven't seen in a while, who I'm really quickly just going to search the name of, just to make sure that they still have a Kaggle account. Yeah, Jonathan Boucher. I haven't seen him in a minute. So if y'all aren't familiar, let's see. Oh no, yeah, okay, he's been on a couple times recently. He does really, really beautiful visualization kernels. Just so good. I really like a lot of his work. And I did not click on the kernel. Good job, Rachel. So just in terms of like pretty visualizations, Jonathan's way up there. Let's see if I can get down to, yeah, look at that. Isn't that beautiful? This is pure R. This is just R. Lovely. Really, really gorgeous. And all of his work is of this caliber. So Jonathan Boucher does really good work. God, I know I'm blanking on people whose work I find fantastic. Yeah, I can't pick a favorite. All right. Yeah. Emma says, will you continue to produce similar videos in the future? The paper readings were extremely helpful. Yeah, I'm planning to. They'll just probably be on a slightly different topic because I'm going to be working on slightly different things. I will say it's probably not going to be just like general machine learning. It'll be narrower. Bubble Ride says, how to become a grandmaster? How long does it take? Varies tremendously. I will say what worked for me was being a Kaggle employee and writing a bunch of code. Yeah, that's not fair because not all the Kaggle employees have a lot of medals. It just depends. It just depends. Victor says, what was your most struggling research topic or subject till now? Image stuff. Not my area of specialization. I don't have a lot of formal training. I've definitely learned more. I've definitely gotten better at image processing, but it's still not my bailiwick. A lot of struggles. Rohit says, what do you think is going to be the popular data science trends for 2020? Oh, good question. I mean, like I have a guess that I'm not super pleased with, which is that I think it's just going to be, the research is all going to be bigger models, more data, which honestly, I don't think is that interesting. I think Yoav Goldberg tweeted about that relatively recently as well. He's just like, and I agree, it's just, I think it's interesting from an engineering perspective that yes, this is a thing that you can do, which is great, but it's not super helpful for people in their day-to-day. Like, I don't have $20,000 to train a model. I just don't. And even if I did, like the environmental impact of training a model that big, it would have to be something that I could use repeatedly that I thought was really going to be a good investment of those resources. And I think a lot of the stuff out there just kind of isn't. Make sure I'm actually typing. So I think that's definitely going to be something that is a trend and that people are going to keep working on. I see more transformers in the future, and more different applications of that. Probably also more hybridized models, which are more transformers plus LSTMs plus other stuff, would be my guess. So taking transformers, now that people have gotten a better understanding of them, and really starting to do, not even ensembling, but like within the model, more different modules that are more specialized, would just be, again, just sort of my guess. More data science specific stuff. Sorry, no, more discipline specific stuff. I'd really love to see machine learning researchers really making an effort to work more with subject matter experts, particularly researchers. So, yeah, I'm trying to find that. That tweet by Yoav, because there's a lot of really good discussion. Yeah, I think this was the original tweet that created all the discussion. So I was like, we've seen some great advances. Once you divide by the number of papers, I'd say 2019 has been a pretty boring year for NLP. And his point was that it's mostly been, hey, there's a new architecture. Let's try it in a bunch of different ways. So anyway. Abhishek says, my questions are being ignored. Sorry, I don't mean to. There's just a lot of chat. I'm doing my best. Kalyan says, all the best for your future endeavors. Thank you. Yashavsi? I'm definitely saying that wrong. My apologies. What would you advise for a beginner CS student to start, what not to do? If you're in CS, I would say take some statistics classes. It really helped me get a conceptual, intuitive understanding of distributions and how data works. And also in statistics classes, or at least the ones that I took, we worked with a wide variety of different types of data, so I got a lot of exposure to different things that are out there in the world. So I found that very helpful. What not to do? Don't just take CS classes. Like take things in other domains, because it's probably, I would say the majority of jobs in coding jobs are not just pure CS algorithms, unless you're a researcher and that's what you work on. They're usually working on CS plus something else. So if you have exposure to whatever that plus something else is, whether it's public policy or, you know, environmental science or biology or library science or whatever else it is that you're interested in, if you've pursued that a little bit and you have a little bit more of an understanding of the field, that'll make you a more compelling candidate and just like more fun to talk to at parties. So yeah, I would say don't just take CS. If you have the opportunity, do a little. Listen, I believe liberal arts educations are helpful. All right. Yeah. Zaire says, we'll miss you, Rachel, but all the best in your adventures. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Kalyan says, stop asking text questions. Farewell, for Christ's sake. Wish her luck, y'all. Oh, I also don't mind answering questions if I can. Chester says, ethics classes are good too. Yes, good point. I hope that those become standard in CS education in the next little bit, but yeah. Yeah, maybe some moral philosophy. Dagum says, have you worked on healthcare-related NLP projects? Nope. I know that the Fred Hutchinson Center here in Seattle has worked quite a bit on extracting information from like documents, like patient records. So they might have stuff publicly available that you can look at. Yeah. Bubble Ride says, advice, pick an industry with product services that you're actually interested now and still as an old person. Yeah, I definitely recommend that. Because, I mean, I definitely have met a very, like, specific breed of engineers. This is a weird, but there's definitely a group of engineers for whom the product or the problem they're working on doesn't matter. They're just sort of interested in, the specific techniques and trying to optimize, like, their specific part of the pie. Or pipeline, I guess, would be better than pie. But for me, I really care about the things that I'm working on. I really care about the type of data that I'm working on. And I care much less about the specific techniques. So for me, language data and particularly things that I believe are, genuinely bettering the world are important for me and my job satisfaction. So, yeah. Hung says, what is your comment about the role of linear algebra and multivariable calculus for data science? I mean, you should probably be generally familiar, but to be honest, I'm going to say it's less important than a lot of people will, because that what computer for. the computer do that. You should, have a, general idea of how it works, sort of, but I don't think you need to, be able to do it by hand. Just my 2 cents. Other people's stance may different. Paul says, just found this. Will you be live streaming again in the future? Yes, but probably not on this channel. Harsh says, first time watching you and watching a farewell stream. Oh, yeah, bad timing a little bit, but welcome. I'm glad we could hang together for a little bit. Acrylic says, how would you recommend going from industry data science / ML back into academia? Ooh, that's a rough one. If you haven't been publishing, it's going to be rough. If you haven't been publishing and you are more interested in teaching, you might start with maybe a community college and focus on more of a teaching position. I'm assuming that you want to get into academia because you do like the teaching component. So that might be a good entrance. Yeah, no, that's definitely hard though. Good luck. She says, I'm graduating this year looking for a data science job. However, I realized a lot of positions are not testing your coding skills. Instead, they ask you a lot of case studies. How can I improve on that part? Ooh, that's a good question. I think the best way to get better at sort of figuring out and scoping a problem and figuring out what you might be able to do is just to work on a lot of little problems. This is also, it's another reason I'm not really into Kaggle competitions is because I get bored kind of easy. So I don't like to work on something for more than a month, unless there's, a reason for me to continue to work on something specific. So I would just try a bunch of different things. If you're not familiar, there's Tidy Tuesday. which is run by Thomas Mock. And it's every Tuesday you get a data project with a specific prompt, and you work on it, and then you tweet out your results and have a little discussion about it. And it's a good way to get like a little taste of different types of problems and what might work or what might not work. And you don't have to use R. It's just if you have questions that are not about R, people may not be able to help you out super well. But yeah, that's a good way to do a little taste. Yeah. Jester says, it's essential to get hired and then irrelevant. Oh, the linear algebra and multivariate calculus. Yeah. It depends on the company. Rohit says, what topics should I focus on in data science in order to be very effective in marketing fields, specifically digital marketing? Social science. I'd say do some digital humanities work if possible. Graph analysis is particularly helpful for things like marketing. So being familiar with graphs and methods for working with graphs, I'd say would be helpful. Yeah. All right. Hung says, how can you read scientific books and articles? A lot of rigorous formulas. The book about counterfactuals you gave in the AutoML session is sort of that. Yeah, no, that one is pretty heavy. What is helpful for me, especially if it's a field that I'm new to or subfield I'm new to, is I look on YouTube and I see if I can find like introductory lectures. I've mentioned this before. It is much easier for me to absorb math when people are telling it to me with words rather than like looking at the symbols. So I would try and find like an introductory lecture and just watch through, try to follow along, and that will also, the nice thing about lectures is that it'll sort of introduce you to the conventions of a field, because a lot of times they won't tell you what specific symbols in the formula are because they assume that you know, right? Which you may or may not know. So like I and J are always going to be iterators. Not always. I assume that A and J are going to be iterators because I've been exposed to that convention, but that might not be the case for all subfields. So yeah, see if you can find some introductory lectures would be my best piece of advice. Paul says, I've done Teal's 12K and it's a blast for course. Yes, I tried to introduce some data science and the curriculum is just too full already. How might you envision a high school data science program? That's a really good question. Yeah, so I think the thing about high school curriculum, sorry, this might be not super interesting to everybody, but it is, I think, about teaching a lot. So the thing about a high school curriculum is that you have to assume that the majority of the students are not going to go into that field. So you have to think about, or at least in the past, what I've thought about when thinking about high school curriculum is what is going to be the most useful to a person in the general populace to know about this field. So I think the two things that I'd really hit on for high schoolers would be latent variables and probably anonymization, right? Because a good understanding of latent variables will help you to really interrogate and understand correlations and sort of systematic things and how they might have a shared underlying cause. And I also think that you can teach that without having to do a bunch of, teach people a bunch of specialized libraries. And then anonymization, because anonymization and de-anonymization are, particularly when you are handing off data to a company, having a good understanding of the ways in which you might be re-identified, I think is a good, like, safety hygiene thing just for people to know. Yeah, those would probably be the two things that I'd pick out of a more of a data science-y thing. Or teach people how to do charts. Please stop doing line series as bar charts. It's hard to read. Line series should be line charts. That's the one thing that I would tell to high schoolers. Please, if there is a line, I'm going to assume there's a temporal connection between the things that are connected with the line. This is a convention that you may not have absorbed from reading charts, but it is sort of like underlying that. Yeah. Paul says, I also have a ton of high schoolers coming to me looking for internships, have trouble finding things to tell them. Yeah, internships are hard. Finding internships are hard, and also doing internships. Yeah, I don't have any specific advice there. Robert says, why do we need data scientists? Can't AI handle building their own models? To a certain extent, but model building is the vast minority of what a data scientist does. So a question that an AI cannot answer is, should we build a model to do this in the first place? Like, is this an ethical choice to make? Does this make business sense? Will this be a good return on investment? Those are all things that you can't automate well. Also, data collection and cleaning, again, very difficult to automate. I know people are working on it. I don't think we've gotten very far. All right. Yashazvi says, would you compare Kaggle with competitive programming? Do you think it would add value to a data science? Maybe. I think the biggest thing that you would get from competitive programming is just sort of practice and quickly solving small problems, which is good preparation for a tech interview, but I don't personally put a whole lot of store in it. And I think Kaggle is similar in that it's Kaggle competitions in particular are a fairly narrow skill set, and it may or may not align particularly well with what you do in your day-to-day job. So do it if you think it's fun. Taha says, is there anyone else who will be streaming now or no streaming at all? For the next little bit, I don't think there will be any streaming. There might be more in the future, so stay tuned. And there should be a couple of videos posted even after I leave, hopefully, assuming I get all my ducks in a row. Sanjay says, I'm an electrical engineer, suggest projects and case study to work on to get into a data science career. I get a lot of questions like this, and unfortunately it's hard to answer, right, without having more information. But if you check on the YouTube channel, there's a couple of, the Kaggle YouTube channel, there's a couple of streams I've done where I talk about how I figure out how to come up with a problem. Like I think the one from 2 weeks ago I did that, so that might be a good resource for you. Bubble Ride says, stacked pie charts. No, bad. Those are also very difficult to read. Radians are one of the harder ways for humans to access and understand information. Zaire says, how do we prevent machine learning algorithms from being biased and affecting people's lives? Good question. Good product design, I think, is going to be the main thing. Because if there's bias in their data, there will be bias in the model, right? So, and there's this, all right. So many prominent machine learning researchers, whenever you bring up bias, are like, well, algorithms are unbiased. But the thing about a machine learning model is that it is not the algorithm. It is the algorithm and the data is almost certainly biased in some way. And by applying an algorithm to the data, any biases in the data, there's some research that suggests will actually be increased in the trained model. So being aware of what the problems might be, being alert, and also being very cautious about where to implement machine learning. So I think that automated decision making should not be used in anything that has a large impact on people's lives. Like, should this person get into this school? Don't automate that. Should you give this person medicine? Don't automate that. Like, maybe you automate part of the diagnostic process, right? For like, diabetic retinopathy, being able to be like, hey, there's probably something with this, but like treatment plans, I don't think should be automated. So just being cautious, being aware, being vigilant. There's no way to be like, it's ethical now, I fixed it. Ethics is always a conversation. Good design is always a conversation, and it's hard, right? That's part of the work. Part of the work is figuring out, hey, could this potentially hurt someone? How can we prevent that? If we can't prevent that, should we do this anyway? Probably not. Maybe yes. Yeah. It's complicated. Yeah, Paul says, love the plotting recommendation. That hits data science as well as core CS coding. Don't try Matplotlib. Would be, again, great library, a lot of respect for the developers, but I would not recommend it for high schoolers. Akshay says, thoughts on using text data plus tabular data for regression problems. You're probably going to want to turn your text into numbers, doing something like topic modeling or embeddings or something in order to regress on it, unless it's categorical. TGB says, we'll be able to follow you. Will you have your own channel where you will continue to stream? Yes, so I will continue to stream on my Twitch channel, which is twitch.tv/RCTATMAN, like I am in most places. Yeah, and then YouTube TBD. Asaf says, can you suggest some alternatives of Kaggle, please? For data science competitions, there's a lot of options out there. One off the top of my head is Zindi, Z-I-N-D-I, which is focused on African data. It's an African company. So if you have any interest in Africa specifically, that might be a good one. Yeah. Tanmay says, can you suggest YouTube channels for learning statistics concepts for machine learning? 3 Blue, 1 Brown is really good for statistics. Yeah, 3 Blue, 1 Brown. I would highly recommend, and lots of really beautiful visualizations. So yeah, I would recommend them. Also, Jabril's is more of sort of like Jabril's is more of a project-based channel, but also very good. And oh, what's the last one? Sorry, there's another one that's really good, and I am totally blanking on.
Sorry, I'm not sure how to...
Thanks, Google. One sec, I'm gonna look it up really fast, which is also project-based, but has sort of like broader discussions as well. Every day, but the day is spelled A-I. Did I spell that right? Yeah. Another really good channel, lots of really good discussion. I think her name is Jordan, is a CS student, so really good technical discussion, but also sort of like broader things as well. So I would also recommend this channel, which is EVERYD A. So those are my recommendations. And StatsQuest, a bunch of people are also recommending, which I'm not familiar with, but sounds good. Oh, maybe I have seen a couple of these. Yeah, I think I have seen a couple of these. I remember them being pretty good. Asif said, what if someone wanted to work on Kaggle as a professional like you? What would you recommend to them? So Kaggle is owned by Google, so you would have to go through the Google application process, which is rough. It was, like, I got through it, but it was, had a lot of things. All right. Manuel says, just wanted to say thank you. I've learned a lot with every stream of yours. Oh, thank you. Thank you for joining. And TGB says, I'm following a book to learn data science. It's a really nice book, but in order for me to really learn, I need to solve problems myself. Where would you recommend I start? I'm glad you asked. I would recommend you start on Kaggle. Under data sets here, you can see that we have something called tasks. And these are specific problems that people have set up to do on specific data sets. So it gives you a problem definition, basically, and the data is there, and you can just sort of hack away on it and see how you do. And if you don't do good, you don't have to submit it. You can just keep your work private. So, all right. I'm gonna wrap it up there. This one was a little bit longer than I usually do, but you know, I wanted to make sure I got a chance to say goodbye to everybody. Thank you all for making my job here at Kaggle so wonderful. And I will see you on the internet. Maybe on Kaggle. Definitely on the internet. Thanks for joining, everybody. Bye.